Risky business with Pete and Teresa. Talking trouble till it turns into reason. From our old moments till we got this fixed. They're riding that line between safe and ambitious. Risky business with Pete and Teresa. Where smart beats lucky every season.
G'day everybody and welcome back to Risky Business. I'm Pete Jeffersoni and with me today is Teresa Riccio Goodwin.
Hello.
Welcome back. Today we're going to tackle the most misunderstood phrase in the corporate dictionary, risk appetite.
Oh, God. If I had $1 for every time I heard risk appetite used as a fancy word to say I'm scared, I would be retired on a beach in Noosa right now.
That's so true, wouldn't we all? I think it's funny when you think about risk appetite and people treat it very much like a medical condition or a diet. Sorry, I can't do that project. I have a low appetite for that. It's really become the ultimate corporate get-out-of-jail-free card. But today we're going to peel back the jargon and talk about why it's actually your best friend.
I think this is a really good topic and really valuable for organisations. So let's start with the basics, Pete. What are we actually talking about when we say those dreaded words, risk appetite?
Oh, look, in plain English, and this is for the non-risk people out there today, It's really about the amount of bad you're willing to put up with to get to the good. So think about it. And I always, when I talk about risk appetite, I love my food, so I always relate it back to food. So
beautiful.
Think about this, Teresa. You're at a dinner party.
Yep.
Your appetite is how much spicy curry you can handle, how much you can tolerate. If you want that amazing flavor of a 5-star Vindaloo, that's your strategic objective. You have to accept that your mouth might be on fire for 20 minutes afterwards, and it could be even worse the next day.
Yeah.
That's your risk.
Yep.
Serious injury to you or someone else at the party.
Yeah, absolutely. And the appetite part is you deciding before you take the first bite, before you order, whether you've got enough milk in the fridge to handle the burn. So where you don't know your appetite, you're just a person crying over a bowl of curry that there's no way you'll be able to finish.
Yeah, absolutely, Teresa. And look, I think when I think about risk appetite, it really sets the boundaries for decision-making in your organisation. It really tells your team about how hard they can play. And, you know, as long as you're inside that sandbox, as soon as you start to move and try and climb over the fence, we need to have a serious chat about some of the decisions you're about to make.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other analogy that I really like when it comes to risk appetite is the wine. How much wine do you have an appetite for? Are you driving home? Are you pregnant? Things like that, where you start to look at those boundaries, those guardrails around, well, how much risk can I actually take?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would say that a lot of people, a lot of organisations, not necessarily sector specific, are really stifled by the notion of risk appetite. And I think it comes down to those big myths. So throw some of those big myths out there, Pete.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest myth is that our risk appetite is something that we just keep on a page.
Yeah.
We write it down. We might, I know I've seen plenty of these, 30, 40 page risk appetite document that gets printed out, put on a shelf, and we go, tick, we've actually done that now. So, risk appetite is done.
Yep, a compliance task.
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly right.
Yeah. And it's like, the feedback, but we did the workshop. We printed the PDF. We've got articulately beautiful statements written. And let's just go back to that gut feel, that finger in the air around what we're doing.
Absolutely. And like you and I, we've worked with many boards and executives to help them to develop their risk appetite
Something
statements.
Meaningful.
Yeah, exactly. But what we find is that it goes on the shelf.
Yep.
It comes decision time. The board's about to approve a $100 million project.
Yep.
And they've gone, my gut feel tells me that this is okay.
Yep.
Or, management have assured me they've got appropriate risk management in place.
Yep.
Have I verified that? No.
Yep.
We approved the $100 million project. In fact, I can recall a certain organisation I was working with, and they did have a $100 million project go up for board approval.
Yep.
And under the risk management category section of the board paper, it actually said, these are the words it said in the report, there are no risks associated with this project.
Holy shit.
And thankfully, someone on the
Wow.
board said exactly those words. Holy shit.
Yes.
There's no risk associated with $100 million spend.
Not one.
Not one. Exactly. So, hence, I get the phone call. Pete, can you come in and facilitate this workshop? Because we actually don't believe there's no risk associated with this.
Oh, my goodness.
And that's just one example
100%.
where we see this all the time
Yeah.
in these organisations.
Yeah.
And I think risk appetite is one of those tools that really, again, help you in getting some empowerment in people within our organisations, because we know how much risk we can take.
Yep.
And we know that, what the boundaries are. And we express that in our, our consequence tables,
Yep.
in our risk acceptance tables.
Yep.
But I want to put a challenge out there today, Teresa.
Uh-huh.
And sorry, folks, I'm going completely off script. I want to
Completely rogue.
I want to put a challenge out there, because most organisations will sit down and they will try and write out their risk appetite statement.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know about you. I'm pretty comfortable and I'm quite intimate with ISO 31000.
Yes.
I don't recall seeing the words risk appetite statement within the standard.
No.
What the standard does talk about, though, is that an organisation needs to, and don't quote me, folks, I'm not going to get this verbatim, but it says something along the lines of, the organisation needs to understand how much risk they're willing to bear
Yep.
in pursuit of their objectives. And you express that in your risk criteria. So, for those that are uninitiated with risk criteria, we talk about that being our consequence and likelihood tables, our risk acceptance table, and probably escalation stuff. Right.
Yeah.
Now, doesn't say anything about we need to have a risk appetite statement.
No.
So what's the value in it?
No. So risk appetite, I think, misses the mark in 99% of organisations.
Yep.
Right? So we've got a statement. Is it translated into both those responsibilities where you've got risk management responsibilities versus risk oversight responsibilities? Like, can both the board and executive pick it up and say, well, this is my role in this statement? And I would say no.
Yep.
I don't think risk appetite statements deliver that. The standard doesn't ask for it.
No.
So you won't find the term risk appetite in ISO 31000, the 2018 version, of course.
Correct.
Just in case this podcast outlives us.
Yes.
And we've got 5 iterations of the 31,000 standard. But it does make you wonder, because it has become an item, even state government departments, it has become an item. Do you have it? Do you have a risk appetite statement? So we're seeing the statement is articulated, but then it goes nowhere.
That's exactly right. And ultimately, where I've seen in organisations, they've articulated a risk appetite statement, and I'll talk about the quality of those in a moment. But then how do you operationalise that? And that's I think it's probably one of the most common questions I will get.
Yeah.
How do we operationalise our risk appetite statement? And I always go, well, firstly, if your appetite statement's not linked to your strategic objectives, then it's a piece of garbage on, you may as well throw it in the bin.
Yeah.
Where you can really get some good value is about having really strong risk criteria that actually drives decisions within your organisation. If you feel you need to have risk appetite statements, then if they need to be linked to your strategic objectives. So, with objective A, what are we willing to do to achieve that objective, but what's our trade-off? So you might say we want to be a really innovative organisation, but to do that we need to be quite experimental in our operations, even if that means we have an increase in our operational budget by 10-15%. So you've actually said, well, this is what we're willing to do. If I'm in one of those operational teams, I know I can pursue a new initiative even if I know I'm going to go over budget by 10 or 15%.
Because that's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But if you've just got and I love these, now I'm going to get critical on risk appetite statements. We have a zero appetite for serious harm in the workplace. No shit, Charlene.
Yeah.
Of course you do.
Come on, Charlene.
Why wouldn't you?
No, 100%. And there's a grey area of that, right?
Yep.
Because, if you run a skydiving organisation, okay, and you're throwing people out of planes, right, the risk of injury is far greater than a corporate setting.
Yeah.
But what you're looking for are those, malicious, intentful, could be avoided acts.
Yes.
And that's where your blanket statement isn't enough. And we're really looking to the nuts and bolts of the organisation to say, well, how do we deliver our objectives?
Yeah.
And naturally, inherently in the work we do, what risk are we accepting day to day?
That's exactly right. And I think there's quite a bit of danger for organisations to have zero appetite for anything.
Yeah.
Purely because and I'll stick on the safety side of things. We know that by articulating a zero appetite statement means that let's say, okay, you do have a death in the workplace.
Yeah.
And not just what the personal effect it has on people, but what it can have an effect on the organisation.
Yeah.
It goes to we'll say to the work cover authority of the state or territory. It has a coroner investigation. Now, we know coroners globally now will look at your risk management information.
Yep.
They'll ask for your risk management framework documents. And part of that appetite, if they look and see, zero appetite, how much money did you invest then in protecting your people?
What training was available?
What awareness campaigns were you running?
Yep.
And I guarantee you will not be protected.
No,
because you won't be investing infinite amounts of resources into reducing that particular exposure.
Yeah.
So, think about, yes, we want to pursue our certain operations, or we want to be coming back to the innovation idea is that, we want our operations to be very experimental, but not at the expense of putting our people at harm.
Yep.
Now, that's a very different statement to we have a zero appetite for serious injury in the workplace. So it's not so much to give you a get out of jail free card.
No.
But it actually means that I can go and be really innovative in some area of the business, but not at the expense of the safety of our people. So if I'm a skydiver instructor, I'm not going to say, let's experiment. Let's not put parachutes on people and just see what happens to
Surprise.
them.
Exactly.
Because we don't want to put them at risk either.
Exactly. I think one thing I've learned, and risk appetite was one of the most complex topics, and it took me a really long time to get the hang of. And I think because there's a part of me that doesn't 100% agree with the way they're being used.
Yes.
So it took a lot to get me to the point where I'm like, yep, I feel confident in this process. But looking at the interaction with boards, looking at the interaction with executives, I always suggest do not use zero tolerance, because there's an internal control associated with zero.
Yep.
And chances are we're setting ourselves up to fail.
Absolutely.
So that terminology, I think, is tricky.
Yeah, and look, even when we think about the use of the terms risk appetite, risk tolerance, I've seen many organisations, I've seen many conference presentations where they're interchanged quite frequently.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, in my opinion, I think just do away with the terminology.
Yeah.
And look, I know that in ISO, I think it was the Guide 73 in the vocabulary, it actually has a definition around risk appetite. I think that's fine.
Yeah.
But I think there's a danger for organisations where they'll get so caught up in expressing our risk appetite. Here's our tolerance indicators. Then all of a sudden, our focus is on those indicators.
Yeah.
Not so much on, what do we need to do to achieve our objectives? We'll focus on, the numbers are telling us this, so stop.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Stop in the name of love. Don't don't do anything. And so that's where organisations will fail.
Yes.
So how do we then use that conversation to empower people? And I think by having those really, if you want to articulate risk appetite in statements, tell us what the trade-off is. Tell us how much risk we can take.
Exactly.
And those boundaries.
Exactly.
Or just focus on, writing really good risk criteria.
Yeah.
Because that really is ultimately is you expressing your risk appetite and your tolerance. So one of the things we've developed at Skefto, and I know Oxford and James do very similar things, is around these risk acceptance tables. So on a piece of paper, I can see what our tolerance is.
Yep.
And at what point do I need to actually go and do further treatments to bring that risk back within appetite?
Exactly.
Don't overthink it.
No.
Keep it simple And ultimately, again, I think linking that appetite to objectives
Yep.
will be much better than what we've seen. And I'm sure you've seen this too,
100%.
where I've seen risk appetites being written per risk.
Yes.
So could you imagine having 40 odd risks with their own individual appetite?
It's madness.
It is insane. I've seen risk appetites written per consequence category.
Yeah.
I've had conversations with boards where I've walked in and said, look, this is better practice
Yep.
to articulate your risk appetite. And they go, no. Our internal auditors, sorry, Teresa,
No.
internal auditors have said we need to have a risk appetite statement per risk. Or our internal auditors said we have to have a risk appetite based on our consequence categories. And I always follow up with, and what qualifications in risk?
Yep.
do
Does your
internal audit-
yeah.
And most times, if again, I love internal auditors. They're some of the most intelligent people that I know. But most come from an accounting background.
Yes.
So without having that risk expertise, you shouldn't be making those recommendations.
Not at all. Especially if you don't know the operational use of it.
Correct.
Yep.
That's right. And I think it's okay. Some of the best advice we can give you today, folks, it's okay to push back on those audit recommendations.
Yes.
Because guess what? It's a recommendation.
Exactly.
It's not that you shall do this.
No.
So push back on that. Or if you need to, get risk experts in. If you're asking for an audit of your risk frameworks, or you're asking for someone to look at your risk maturity, get risk experts in to do that for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And even set up that relationship where your risk team are involved in the outputs of audit.
Yes.
And if you need that, bulletproof vest in front of executive to deal with the auditor and to talk about it, to get traction on the audit, to push back, because nobody knows your business as well as you do.
100%.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. And look, and I think that risk person in your organisation, I often say this, really has a privileged role within your organisation,
yes.
because how many roles in any organisation gets the opportunity to have a touch point across every part
Exactly.
of your organisation?
Yeah.
So utilise that person, as you said. That's your bulletproof vest. That you had them part of those internal audit conversations. And bring it back to a risk-based approach.
Yep, always.
I think I've seen many occasions too where an internal audit will look at, 5,000 different, I'll say, claims.
Yep.
And out of that 5,000, there was 3 that there was something that just wasn't quite right.
Yep.
So they make this suite of recommendations, but it's like, well, hang on, 3 out of 5,000.
Yep.
That's acceptable.
Yep.
That's fine. It's
We're
within
cool
our,
with that.
Yeah, it's within our appetite. So, just think about that, folks, is that, how you can best utilize your risk teams in those conversations. We're quickly running out of time again, Teresa, but I think that the key message here today is that, risk appetite can be a really strong decision-making tool.
Yeah.
It really sets the boundaries of decisions within the organization, but importantly empowers your people to actually just get on and get shit done.
Exactly. Safely.
Safely.
Getting shit done safely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, that'd make a really cool bumper sticker.
Trademark.
Yeah, that's it. So, look, it's not about saying no. It's about saying yes with your eyes open. I think that's a critical thing.
Agree.
And I think that, really work with your organizations to build real, usable risk appetite frameworks, I'll call it today, without the lengthy PDFs or the lengthy documents that really don't actually drive decision-making within your organisation.
Yeah, good point. Good point. I think if we finish on a war story, so dealing with a client and they had a really high appetite for growth, but they also forgot they had a very low appetite for legal trouble. So expanding into a few different markets, not doing enough due diligence across local regulations and what was required as part of that growth. But really it was like someone trying to win a drag race while their car was literally falling apart. So, they won the race, the car exploded at the finish line, no survivors. So yes, you achieved your growth, but at the expense of, other viewpoints and other really important factors. And I think that's the key with risk appetite. You do have to get it right. It is a critical decision-making tool. But if you're not getting the value from it, it's probably not working.
Exactly. And look, and that's the point you make, Teresa, balancing the two things of risk and reward.
Yeah.
So, and look, ultimately, if you're not using risk appetite to drive decision-making, don't invest the time and effort. If
Exactly.
you're just going to do it for a tick and flick exercise, divert your resources elsewhere.
Yep, agreed.
Excellent. Well, Teresa, thank you once again. It's always cool to have a risky conversation with you.
Yes, love it.
Folks, we'll be back at our next podcast. We're going to have a real focus on risk culture.
Sounds good.
Really excited about that one.
Yes.
So, really please, everyone, stay safe out there. Eat a hot curry if you're game. And we'll...
A Vindaloo.
We'll, a Vindaloo. And we'll see you all. Won't see you, we'll hear you all. Oh, you'll hear us at our next podcast in a few weeks' time.
Take care.
Rescue business with Pete and Teresa. Talking trouble till it turns into reason. From our old moments till we got